Evening, everyone. We're holding a informational meeting at the request of the Board of Selectmen. I want to make it clear this is not a public meeting. It's not a posted meeting. It's an informational meeting. At the board's request to hear the concerns of our residents as it relates to street safety, pedestrian safety, and the like. This meeting is being taped so we can capture what you have to say and we can refer back to it in an effort to at least try to address some of the concerns that you may raise tonight. We may not have any answers for you tonight, but we're here to listen. We may have some suggestions, or we have DPW director in attendance. We have Adam Bernard, our town planner, in attendance. We have the police department here to address any concerns that may be under their jurisdiction. So I ask, if you want to be heard, if you could go up to the mic, state your name, your address, and the reason why you want to address the Board of Selectmen. So with that, do we have any takers that would like to start off?
Yeah, hi. My name is Jim Collins, 11 Murray. Denise and I, we've been in town since 1981, I think. So we've been around. We're both teachers in town, or were. I don't have anything like outlandish to say, except I think Auburn, I walk a lot in town. Maybe the officers see me walking everywhere. I know a lot because I'm out there. And first of all, thank you, Auburn PD. They're doing their job. You know, they're catching the overflow. But I think as a town, I feel as though, just like with teachers, we want to make sure we have a higher expectation and maybe differentiate ourselves from other communities by letting people know that they are in Auburn and we don't want what we want and what we don't want. Auburn has a lot of overflow off 290, particularly on the weekends. I'll be walking down Wrighthill, which is, not far from behind Lemansky Park, right over by PD. And, when I see the New Jersey plates coming up Wrighthill around the corner, probably doing 35, 40, which is probably not speeding, but it's bordering on unsafe. And then the main guys go by, the New York guys. They're really just using Auburn, our neighborhoods as an overflow to get to the next point on the highway. And I have no problem with that. We'd do it if we were in Portland or in Newark. We'd do the same thing. But we own them for that period of time. And I'd like them to know that we expect a little bit better than maybe what they think they want to give. Maybe more signage, particularly I like some towns will have like signs that set a speed limit, and it's flashing. And then if you're going 35, they'll say slow down. Or if you're going 29, they'll say thank you. Some more of like feedback so that maybe we make it a little bit personal, that they know that we expect it and that we appreciate when they live up to the standard. That said, we had a sign kind of like that up on Bryn Mawr Extension last year. I think it's been moved up farther up, or I don't know what, but I mean, I've come down Bryn Mawr out of the view of that, but I see cars coming up, and I think they were trying to see how high they could get the number. So they were using it as a toy, but I think overall, I think things like that are helpful. I feel like the stuff they've done on Bryn Mawr, below, down by the Bethel Church, down by the elementary schools, the crosswalks, the crosswalk down by the post office, even though you're taking your life in your hands anywhere in our town, I mean that, they're out to get us, but those have been pretty effective. And people do stop, not everybody, some people will challenge you on that, but you gotta watch it. I know at the top of my street, Murray, where Bryn Mawr Extension goes off at Oxford Street, I call that the Bermuda Triangle. Anything and anything goes up there. You can be on the safe island of the triangle, and you are not safe, even though you are not in the road. You're still super vulnerable. And so I think we just have to like do our work. Kudos to Highway. I mean that. But I think we need just to have to do a bit better. higher expectations, and let our townspeople know that it's us too. The enemy is also us, that we're rushing about our town. And that's life. It's a busy, we live busy lives, and we just have to like make sure that people take notice. You know, I'm not a disgruntled towns member. I just want to improve it. You know, and I'll be out walking, and a lot of liquor bottles. You know, every 20th or 30th car, you're smelling pot. You know, so you guys know. You know, that's my world, and that's our town. But we just have to make sure this is the field of play. How can we do a little bit better? Thank you.
Thank you for that. What I can tell you about that general vicinity, because we did have a public hearing on that, as it relates to the traffic on 290 backing up from the Pike in 395 in the Grandview Street area. And we're working with Mass DOT. The police department did a traffic study on Vine Street. We are trying to work with DOT, put some signage up there. I think there's a digital speed board up there as well. So we're trying to address that general area because it has been brought to our attention, and they're using Rethel as a cut-through as well. What I can tell you is the police department has done a fantastic job in terms of enforcement. I think the numbers will show that over the past 5 years, statistically, through enforcement, crash data has gone down, speeding has gone down, citations have gone up. That's a big element of addressing speed in various places through town. So kudos to the police department. They're really focused on that. We often talk about adding another enforcement officer within the department to address some of those needs. So I can tell you we're working on that, and we recognize the need, and hopefully that will pay dividends in the future. Sure, come on up, Sarah. Bob?
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board. My name is Leo Miranda. I live in 16 Murray Ave. I've been a resident of Auburn since 2001. I think my wife will kill me for not knowing exactly the date, but I would say for me, I actually gave up complaining about traffic until tonight. Murray Ave to me has been a cut down street to 290 for a long time, and people have been flying down that road. I'm the neighborhood watch. They can attest to that. I'm constantly signaling people to slow down, be careful. And now to the point I see even ladies go by and flip me off, you know. So, and there was one white truck that stopped once and slammed on the brakes after narrowly missing my wife. She was crossing the street. And then I have to address the gentleman because of, he almost hit my wife, basically. Historically, I've gone to the police department several occasions. One time, I have an application on my iPad that I can actually clock the cars going by and it captures the speed that we're going by. And I put together a document with about 16 instances where the cars were easily exceeding 40 miles an hour, easily. Some of them were clocked at 55. Now, granted, it's an app. I'm not going to say it's equivalent to a radar or anything like that, but it's all I had to work with. What they told me, the sign, the speed limit is posted at 25. And I was told at the time that even though it's posted at 25, it cannot be enforced. So I asked, well, what can be enforced? Because they're easily exceeding 35, 40 miles an hour, what I would consider reasonable, especially with so many children in our street and people that walk their dogs and people that walk because they use that to go to the park, also Rocket Lands, and it's a heavily traveled or walk area, including the cross-country team, I believe in Auburn, takes that route several times too, though, and I still see they have to jump in the sidewalks at times. This also, and since we have the Department of Works here, I want to address also that at the end of Murray Ave, when the curve comes, there's a yellow sign there. I don't even know what it means anymore because I stopped looking at it. That since I moved in, it had a swastika painted on, and I asked if I could clean it. And I was told that if I try to clean it, I would be charged with, what's it called? Hampering or damaging the sign or something like that. But it's still there. And since I moved into town, it was my welcome to town, if you will. So just wanted to address those couple things. I don't know what we can do. I mean, I'll be more than happy to continue to use my little app and catch the cars that are speeding or whatever. Be willing to help in any way. In one occasion, the police department did put the sign with the radar right in front of the house because I said, I mean, put something in front of my house if you like. I don't know if that has any data or captures any data saying, what the results were of that. But I saw no effect. I mean, sometimes the cars would react to that and slam on the brakes kind of thing, though, but some people completely ignore it and went right down. So I have that. Thank you.
Thank you. We will work with DPW and we will check out that sign for you. Do you remember when you reported the sign being?
This was probably back in 2002, 2003.
We'll take a look at that. We'll also, Chief, any recommendations in terms of addressing the speeding there? I believe DOT was also going to include that area as well, weren't they, during their review? In the Murray Ave area, so that may be looked at. There may be some additional signage going up, but we're waiting for those results to come in. Chief?
Thank you. So to the members of the public that are here to complain, it doesn't fall on deaf ears. Traffic has always been near and dear. Some of the people that I have in this room are my supervisors that oversee our traffic division, our traffic officers that are solely designed to do analysis and to address problem areas. And I get it, Mr. Collins, and sir, I forgot your last name, but Dale. Okay, but thank you. It doesn't fall on deaf ears. I know it's a quality of life issue. My wife and I walk. We walk with our dogs where we live, and it's concerning. So when I took over as police chief, and prior to that as a lieutenant, it's always been my focus that traffic was the most requested service that we could provide our citizens. Beyond anything else, if I hear a complaint, and we do almost on a daily basis, it's about traffic enforcement. So it doesn't fall on deaf ears. We focus on school safety and the safety of our children and the safety of our citizens and the pedestrians. The town manager spoke about the Shared Streets Grant, which was an unbelievable grant that we were able to attain to get some of those radar signs and the signage and the school and replace and update some of the school crosswalk signage at the schools. And it has been a tremendous benefit down there as far as improving safety. But I'm generally not a statistic guy, but I'm pretty proud of what I'm going to read here. I have a couple of bullet points. I'll try not to bore you. But at the beginning of November, one of my sergeants, he compiles our statistics on a month-to-month basis, and we compile them on a yearly basis. So at the beginning of November 2024, here are some of our current statistics compared to last year. Annually, we continue to see an increase of our calls for service and productivity. Our arrests to date are 304 in compared to 251 during the same time in 2023, which is a 21% increase. Our criminal summonses to date are 258 compared to 213 during the same time in 2023, which is another 21% increase. Our incident reports that we take are 1,385 compared to 1,218 in 2023, which is almost a 14% increase. Our traffic accidents, our crashes are a total of 478 compared to 603 during the time in 2023, which is a decrease of 20%. We've made 5,045 traffic stops compared to 4,417 during the same time period in 2023, which is a 14.2% increase. We've issued 2,920 citations this year compared to 2,163 during the same time last year, which is a 34% increase. And I wrote on here, I'm particularly proud of the 20% reduction in crashes, which is a testament to the commitment and enforcement efforts by the men and women of the Auburn Police Department. And a lot of it is the men and women that are sitting here right now. We're currently staffed and budgeted for 43 police officers as of after the first of the year. I'm down about 4 right now. My officers, the men and women of the police department, are very busy answering calls, domestics, crashes, criminal investigations, shopliftings, and a myriad of all those other things. And in the meantime, with me breathing down their necks, asking them to be proactive with traffic enforcement. There isn't a community in the Commonwealth or in the nation that isn't concerned about traffic enforcement, and it is definitely a problem. We're doing our best. I'm absolutely, I was stunned to see the 20% decrease in traffic, in accidents. That doesn't happen by accident. That didn't happen because people decided to drive safer. That happens, the only way you can get compliance with enforcement. We can change speed limits, we can put signs up, we can do a lot of things that will, in some ways, appease the public, in some ways notify some of the officers, some of the residents and the people that pass through. But what's going to really make a difference is the enforcement levels. We've done a number of traffic studies on various roads. It's interesting to hear about Murray Ave, because that's not a road that I've heard a lot about, but I'm not surprised because I know it's a cut-through roads, and it's generally the cut-through roads that people notice how fast people are driving. We've done traffic studies, and most of what the traffic studies are showing is that 80% of the populace is still driving within that percentile of what the speed limit is. We dealt with it with complaints with people on Pinehurst Street, and the issue that comes up, and I'm not going to try to get too complicated with this, but when we do the traffic studies, and one of the guys that does the traffic studies is sitting in the audience back there, and he'll do it for a week. And they'll look at what this posted speed limit is. Let's say 40 miles per hour. It's set at 40. And when they do the traffic studies, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, it's the 80th percentile, correct? So it's the 80th percentile, and what we're showing at a 40 mile per hour speed limit, 80% of the people are driving at 39 miles per hour. So then we look at the entire traffic data that comes out. Yep, we've had them at 85, 90 miles an hour on Pinehurst Street. What we don't know, is it an ambulance? Is it a police cruiser? Is it someone, as Mr. Collins said, that just wants to see how fast he can go? There's always going to be the, as we call the flyers that go there. But I want to assure the public that we are paying attention to this. This is important to us. This is important to me. When I got hired initially 30 years ago, as of October 8th, the police chief that hired me, who I have a lot of admiration for, apparently I had a bit of a reputation from the community that I came in, that I stopped and wrote a lot of traffic citations. And he mentioned a particular officer that had long since retired from Auburn, and said he was a great guy, but we don't need that. We just want you to go out there and be a good police officer and be fair and be reasonable out there. And I got his message loud and clear, but I also recognize, as a police chief and a guy with the years of experience that I have, and the officers that are in this room, and the ones that are out on the road working right now, that traffic safety for pedestrians and the people that pass through our residents is a quality of life issue, and it does not go unnoticed or unaddressed. Thank you. Unaddressed by the police department.
Is it true that if it's posted at 25, it cannot be enforced though, like speed limit? And I can understand that, but like I said, it's just.
Sir, could you come to the mic so we can capture this, please? Thank you.
Is it true that the speed limit might be posted 25, but it cannot be enforced? Because that's what I was told.
Here's where I'm going to get a little bit technical, okay? And Joanna Paquin will know exactly what I'm talking about. So we have what they call regulatory speed limits, and we have advisory speed limits. So if you drive by a sign that's white, it says white with the black number, it tells you what the speed limit is, that's a regulatory speed limit that is set and approved by the state. It's approved by the town, and it's approved by the state. And they determine that speed limit by the 80th percentile that I was just explaining, okay? The advisory speed limits are the ones that you see that are orange, that have the numbers on it. So if it's posted at 25 and it's an orange sign, they're advising the public that that's what they're suggesting the speed limit could be. But the problem with the advisory speed limits that we have, it hinders us as a police department as far as our enforcement methods, because our enforcement methods are generally LiDAR, which is laser determining speed by time and distance with laser, and radar, which everybody's familiar with. Once it's an advisory speed limit and the state says we don't recommend that particular speed, the police department has their hands tied and they can't use their traditional speed enforcement. We can't park in your driveway and use LiDAR or radar to determine someone's speed. The only way we can do it is if we clock the vehicle, which means we're driving behind it, okay? So we can enforce any regulatory speed limit with any method that we choose to determine the speed, to measure the speed. But as far as the advisory speed limits goes, the only way we could enforce it is by clocking the vehicles, which makes it much more difficult. So and truth be told, I don't remember, do you remember the sign in your neighborhood? If it's an advisory,
I believe it's white and black.
if it's white and black, it's a regulatory speed limit, we have no problem measuring the speed. And I assure you, we'll be addressing that. Is it predominantly the morning and afternoon commutes?
Yeah, yeah. And like Mr. Cohen said, weekends can be treacherous. Yeah,
We'll do our best to address it, sir.
appreciate that. Appreciate it. And I do appreciate the work the police department does. So, and I know you guys are busy. I have other concerns bigger than that, to be honest, like the mall and all the things. So I do appreciate what you guys do. And I know you guys are out there doing the best you can.
Thank you so much.
Robert?
Robert Tatro, 4 Ridgewood Drive, and I just wanted to kind of share some history, some of the things that I know about from volunteering in the town over the years, and then maybe comment on some traffic issues. But before I do that, I don't think it really has to do with these gentlemen here this evening. I don't think I would point at law enforcement's responsibility in this whole traffic scenario anyway. I think as a whole, people speed because that's just what they do now. Worcester has just reduced their traffic, right, to 25 miles an hour. You go on the Pike, people are driving 80 regularly. I mean, that's just kind of unfortunately happening everywhere now. What does kind of surprise me is the fact that we don't have automotive manufacturers required to go automatically hands-free at this point, because I still see people, driving by, and I'm sure these gentlemen do every day as well, with their phone up like this, or it's in their face as they're driving down the road. So, personal responsibility comes to this as well. And before I begin also, one of my past lives was I was a captain at the sheriff's office, and I was responsible for the receiving department for a period of time. So we processed between 7,000 to 10,000 inmates a year. We would have anywhere up to very busy peak times, about 90 inmates a day going to any courthouse in this county with vans, buses, whatever it might have been. And I can always assure you that Auburn was well represented on those court lists. So they are always getting their money and they're getting their man, so to speak, when they're taking care of business. So it's really because this department is understaffed and they don't have enough people to go out and chase traffic all day, quite frankly. The other part of this is, if you remember a year ago, these gentlemen were vilified. Nobody wanted them anywhere, and their reputations were besmirched nationally. Not just these gentlemen here, but law enforcement in general, right? They were going to defund the police 18 months ago, and nobody wanted them. Now, all of a sudden, they're all crying, where are they? Well, you reap what you sow, right? So that's the other thing. But before I get into that whole thing, I really just wanted to talk about, the history. We had a gentleman in town, Bob Herron, who was a great guy. You might remember him. He was just a great volunteer in town, loved the community, lived here his whole life, bought properties here, etc. He still has descendants that live in town. And he was also a traffic supervisor / traffic engineer, I guess, construction engineer for the Mass Highway. And when he found out that Route 12 was going to be rebuilt, if you remember, about 15, 20 years ago, he did everything he could to get hold of that project. He had to have it. And before they even broke ground down there, he went around the town, and I'm sure he probably even spoke to some of the gentlemen in this room, and said, what do you think? What should we do? We're going to recut all the curb cuts, which for people in town that don't know what curb cuts are, they're basically the driveways that we refer to it. But in terms of highway, traffic management, speed control, they call them curb cuts. So he painstakingly went through from Drury Square to Route 20, and probably a year before, he even asked me personally, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I saw him do it to many other people in town. So he really made a great effort to try to make Route 12 flow as best as it could with what he had. I'll give you a couple examples. So to start with would be the wall where they used to have the entryway into what is now Bentley's that is now gone. That was Bob's decision. He got rid of that because he always felt if he went there for dinner, people might have a couple drinks. They're cutting across that lane with the increased traffic that always concerned him. So he had them close that up, okay? The other thing was, and these gentlemen will tell you as well, we used to have an abundance of, I live right down the street, so I can tell you almost every time the trailer truck would come off the highway and flop into the woods, right, because of load shift. Bob was the one that got rid of that traffic stop sign right there when he was doing all that as well. Because, and also when I grew up, I had friends that were killed there in a car accident, as a matter of fact. You could look that up in history as well. So he got rid of that traffic stop sign right there, because he surmised that it would get rid of some of the rollovers. And these gentlemen can probably tell you better than I could, but I bet we've probably had less since that's happened. The other thing he worked on that was really concerning to him was, I'll give you an example, Reedy's Barbershop, which is now Land's and Holiday Pizza. That had a double opening at one point, and then he shifted it to the one single wide opening that sends that driveway all the way back into those rear small businesses back there. He was just one of those guys that said, I don't want to affect the small businesses, and if we can make it easier for them to remove the snow and get it out of there, we will. And he just painstakingly did it. The other thing was the Elks entryway, because he knew that was very busy with the Elks, Gabrielian Insurance, now which is a barbershop. There was a bakery at one point. So he really did pay attention to that entire strip. I think people should probably know that. One of the things, unfortunately, Bob got sick and had to retire, so we did not get the rest of his efforts, but he believed that no left turn onto, is it Faith Ave right there at Southbridge Street, CVS, right? So he said either no left turn or make it one way coming off of Route 20. We'll eliminate that bottleneck right there. And that's one of the things that I can see which would be concerned with the Starbucks proposal project, because it can back up right there. The other thing I can tell you about as well is I have another friend of mine in town, Mr. Bean, Tommy Bean, who is a heavy equipment operator. And he was working at the Port of Worcester, as a matter of fact, when they built the Port of Worcester. So as a heavy equipment operator, he had the opportunity to speak to the project managers there who were brought in from other parts of the country who build these professionally for a living. And, you know, their comments around the water tower and lunch would be, well, wait till we're gone and 5 or 10 years later when the infrastructure in a 5-mile radius deteriorates around this place. He said, because that's what happens everywhere we go. We build one of these places and we move to the next place, and within 5 years or 10 years, their entire infrastructure is destroyed within a 10-mile radius because you increase it by 200 to 300 trailer trucks a day. So we have to kind of also recognize that we are the crossroads of New England. I think a lot of people have denied that for years, but the fact of the matter is, and again, the state police, these gentlemen can tell you, every drug network comes right up through New York, comes up 84, and it's right here. Guess what? We are the crossroads of New England. If there's product going down the Mass Pike, heading towards Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Auburn's watching it drive by, literally. Not these gentlemen, but, you know, in general, it's coming through our town. So all of those things are far beyond these gentlemen's responsibility, to be honest with you. One of the other things, again, I'm going, you know, kind of shifting around, but I've also been, as a volunteering town, been in meetings where they've talked about controlling it through road shrinkage, let's say a little bit, where, you know, they put, I'll just give you an example, Church Street here. You know, if they were going to rebuild that, they would put slightly wider sidewalks on each side, which would reduce the lane size, give people a little bit more squeeze. They tend to slow it down a little bit. So there are other methods to do this. You know, even I'll give an example, Arrowhead down here, it's not a speeding road, but quite frankly, it's twice as wide as it needs to be. You know, so if we're going through the neighborhoods and we have these things where we can see these roads might be controlled by a little bit of traffic construction, those are opportunities to do that as well. I believe there might even be some grants available for that. I could be wrong, but I know from time to time, traffic grants do come up. One of the ones they just talked about where if it's Mr. Johnson is proposing all those townhouses behind Julia Bancroft. And he talked about the fact that they could redo that intersection right there as part of the project, for example, of putting all those duplexes over there. So we could take advantage of those opportunities. I'm trying to think if I could add anything else. Oh, so again, but living down here, we want to move to the traffic portion of this thing. I've been on the same road down here for almost 35 years, and I can tell you that the Pike never backed up as it does now. Even though it did regularly, you knew it Friday afternoon. It might get noisy on Sunday night because the trailer trucks are running to Boston and reloading, all the refrigerators and beer coolers up there. But now it's literally on a Tuesday afternoon, it's backed up to Holy Cross just randomly. And that never occurred until they actually did whatever they did over here. So, that's a problem. But just me standing on my deck, I can tell you, I can't spend all day there, but if I averaged it out, if I spend 30 minutes there, I can probably count anywhere from 10 to 15 trailer trucks that come up and down this road just here using this cutover every day. So if you quantify that out pretty simply with a little bit of math, there's a couple of hundred trailer trucks just running South Street to Church Street back and forth in different variations all day long. And, I can see them right from my deck. It's Swift Transportation. It's so-and-so shipping. These aren't local deliveries that are coming in. These are people that are using basically Waze. Everybody still uses Waze like we all do, but they have a version for truck drivers that is a pay per go. And most of the truck drivers just won't pay for it. So they use the civilian version of Waze, and they get somehow in the back of our cemetery, I think these gentlemen can tell you, taking a wrong turn and getting the wrong direction. So, those are all problems that maybe we could reach out to as well. People up on Packagug, I think, with ultimately are now, $750,000 to $1 million homes at this market, are having trailer trucks run up and down Packagug Street all day long now, as a cutover to Route 20 and 146. Maybe at least some signage that says, local deliveries only. I don't know if that necessarily will help, but it certainly can't hurt. Maybe some local ad campaigns. I don't really know if that helps, save our hoods. I don't really know. I thought the chief was pretty funny, and he said, you don't reduce accidents by accidents. I like that line. You should use that, right? You don't reduce accidents by accidents. It's true. So I think you got to kind of look at it as a grand scheme. Our neighborhoods are used as cut through, so we got to kind of address that as one level. The inordinate amount of trailer trucks that have already, you can see, they just had to rebuild Route 12 again now. They're just putting the stripes in, and they just did it 15 years ago when Bob Herron, at the beginning of my presentation here, had just finished it. It's not too long ago. And the funny thing is, they should have done from the bridge at Colony Liquors all the way down to Route 20, because that's the actual disaster in town right now where it really needed to be done, right? So anyway, that's my presentation. That's what I really want to come up and share this. Everybody in the past thinks that, or the people that come into town now think, well, geez, nothing's really occurred before. And that's not the case. We've been trying to manage this from a non-law enforcement perspective for many years as well. Not everything escalates to a legal matter or a criminal matter or even a civil matter for that matter. Sometimes it's just for the fact that somebody's not paying attention and you got to tell them to smarten up, right? And I can honestly say I'm not criticizing anybody at all. I love the fact that we have a lot of people coming into the country and we're all doing different jobs, but there's a lot of language barriers out there now that we're experiencing as well with drivers, right? So that's another problem. We have to be able to address those things. And there's nothing derogatory to say that. It's just a simple fact that we have to be able to make sure that everybody has a understanding of basic, simple traffic laws and people behaving, right? So that's where I think we really have to go. I just wanted to share that with you, but I wouldn't blame it on these gentlemen. I think it's a layered approach that we have to take. I think that if we can address the trailer truck issues, possibly the speeding car issues, maybe through some signage, maybe through some other opportunities, I think that would be great. So anyway, that's all. I just wanted to kind of leave that with you, but thank you very much for your time and have a great night. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mike Darche, 26 Oakwood Ave. I actually have just two things. One is the intersection at Rockland Road and Auburn Street. As one is coming out of Rockland Road to turn left, there is a blind spot, like the hedge line on going up. So one has to pull partially out into that intersection just to see the traffic coming around the corner from Dooley's. So I'm just wondering if there's anything that could be done about that particular area.
Certainly take a look at it, and with the DPW, we can take a look at it to see if there's
Yeah.
anything from an engineering perspective we can.
Yeah, because I always have to pull slightly out just to see up at that corner, because sometimes they do come flying around that corner, so I have to be aware of that. The second thing is probably a byproduct. It's Oxford Street at Pinehurst Ave, and that's a byproduct of the 290 disaster, as the traffic backs up on Oxford Street heading towards heading south. So it backs up all the way down to Hurd Street a lot of the times. And it's kind of a concern because the traffic is all this traffic is fighting to get on to the rest of Oxford Street. And now that the development on Vinyl Street is a go, that's going to add more cars coming from Vinyl Street into that maelstrom, so to speak. So I don't know what the town can do about that, but it seems like MassDOT sort of dropped the ball when they rebuilt that bridge over Route 12. Instead of having one lane to the Pike, they probably should have had 2 lanes. I don't know how much that would have helped, but I think it would have helped somewhat on that whole mess coming off of 290 every weekend. And that's it.
Thank you. Any other comments this evening? Well, thank you. We appreciate you coming out and letting us know your concerns, your neighborhood concerns, and throughout town. We are going to do what we can to address what you brought to our attention tonight. I think you got a commitment from police and DPW to take a look at those areas. So give us some time, and hopefully we can make some changes in the neighborhood. Thank you. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you. Thank you.